Hello and welcome to Creative You Knitting and Crocheting Podcast. Thank you for inviting me into your home for this 15-minute spot about all kinds of stuff. And today is kind of a potpourri of many different things, both knitting and crocheting. We have had extremely high winds here today. We had flash flood warnings, and I'm watching my two little grandchildren because my daughter and son-in-law are tearing apart their bathroom, and it's brought some childhood stories back about my grandfather's yard was right beside ours, and a lot of neighborhood kids would come, and my grandfather still had an outhouse, and I could tell you some outhouse stories. One thing, you didn't want your so-called friends to lock you in the outhouse. And then there were always bugs and spider webs and fears about childhood fears, like a snake coming up, all kind of things. But I do remember reading one time about a man that sat on his toilet and a snake out of the sewage wove its way up the toilet to his behind, and of course there were shrieks and screams. And when I met my husband, they had a tiger cat, and he loved to get in the shower with my husband. They had a small shower with a curtain, and the cat could easily walk in. The first time he did that and his tail went up behind my husband's leg, my husband let out a shriek, not knowing what had him, and it was the cat. And the cat loved to do that. So I have a crocheting tip today. You all know I'm working on the ripple blanket. And when you do the chain 3 and the next stitch, hold on here, folks, you get a gap, and it's not really a nice gap. You get a hole there between the chain 3 and the first stitch. And with this pattern, it's kind of forgiving because of the place that you put it, but it's not nice. So the way that you get around that is by doing what they call a link. And if you can just listen to what I'm saying and fasten it in your mind, it will all make sense. I know some people are visual learners. Some people need to hear it, forget the pictures. But there are your chain 3 stitches. What you're going to do is go back in the middle chain. So you're going to you're going to put the hook through the middle chain, yarn over, and pull up. You now have 2 loops on your chain. You are now going to go into the next stitch and yarn over. You now have 3 hooks on your chain. You're going to yarn over and go through 2, yarn over and go through 2. You now have what is called a linked stitch. You still only have 1 loop at the top, but you have kind of almost like a right triangle. And when you are a few stitches out, I'll show you here just how nice it's going to look. So this, of course, is linking with double crochet, but you can do it with any. So now when you go back to the beginning, you don't have a hole there. If you look down through, you can see my holes the whole way down. When you look at it, it doesn't really show up that much, but again, it's this pattern makes it easy to overlook it. But what a neater edge. Now, if you didn't catch that, and you can practice doing it, and if you even just listen, it will make sense. You're at the beginning of the row, you're going to chain 3. You're now going to put your hook in the middle chain. So the second chain from the hook, and you're going to yarn over and pull up. You now have 2 chains on the hook. Now you're going to go into the next stitch, put your hook through, yarn over, and pull up. You now have 3 loops on the hook. Yarn over and go through 2 of them, yarn over and go through 2 of them, and you have what's called a linked double crochet. If you have any questions, please feel free to comment, or I think I'll be doing it this way from now on. I didn't know about it, and now I do, and now I'll be doing it. So a few other things. There have been ladder yarns that have come and gone. They're actually very pretty, and now is a good time to get them because they're quite cheap and they come in all different colors. There was a kind of a fad of making necklaces, so you crochet whatever size you want. You can do like 3 different lengths, like 16, 18, 20, or 18, 20, 22. Come back through. I like to chain them together, do your next one, and so forth. Some people do a slider on it, but you can combine a couple different yarns. This isn't the best top to have a necklace. By the way, this top is in one of the Katia books. It takes, for this size, about 6 skeins of a $10 silk merino yarn. So this is a $60 top. Your sleeves are just kind of like making 2 skinny cows or 2 skinny tubes. The top is that length. So for the quality of the yarn, it's quite a deal. I can figure out the name of the pattern if you're interested. Not very difficult at all to make. So there is a pattern that's been out a long time called the Sundance Makeup Bag. I've made several of them by Joelle Rioux, R-I-O-U-X. Lots of people have made these. They do look pretty in solid colors because you can see the stitches. There's one done in red. It is kind of a sampler of different stitches and different yarn over, seed stitch, knit 2 togethers. This lady made hers into a little pocketbook, which today with cell phones, that would be really nice. There's a black one. So I don't know, 21 pages of them. It's a free pattern. I don't know that I see any variegated ones. Actually, that one was mine. So I have this bamboo type yarn that was sold very cheap because it was mislabeled as a 100 gram, I think, and it was actually a 50. So rather than do the work of relabeling them, they just sold. It is a tape construction yarn, very easy to use. You could actually sew the ends together and make a big giant ball. So I took the 2 yarns together. This is going to be much bigger. I do have some ends to work in. This is going to be much bigger because it's 2 yarns together. This will get, when this gets longer, this will get folded in half, and then this piece will get folded down. Okay, now because of my colors, the holes don't really show up that much. I could do a really pretty solid color along there, like a black or a midnight blue. And I still think the seed stitches on the back, that the overall effect is pretty. And then depending on what buttons I use, I could also get a really neat effect. Okay, so we also talked about thick and thin yarns. The beachcomber shawl, there were problems with the thick and thin yarn, and we found out that using a big needle helped. So this is a long sleeve sweater that I had started with a thick thin yarn called creta. It is an Aran weight yarn, and I kind of stopped because I wasn't sure if my granddaughter would like it, and I wanted to be sure. So she does like it. So this is the effect that you get. I actually think it's quite pretty. There we go. I actually think it's quite pretty. This is done with a big needle, a size 11. There we go. I had a customer that made it with a smaller needle, maybe an 8, and did just a rectangular baby blanket in the white. It was pretty. This is a acrylic, 40% acrylic, 55% cotton, and 5% nylon. So I just have to go around and around and around and then do the sleeves. And so what do you think? Do you like the effect? Do you not like the effect? I think it'd be lovely over a tank top of a different color and so forth. This was a vintage, a Vogue Knitting Crochet Special Edition 2014. And I do believe they put very dramatic things out that you would probably never wear, but you know, some people love, some people don't. That is like a top cover up. Not something that everyone would wear, but when people do wear gutsy things, seems like they get compliments. You can look at a book 100 times, and depending where you are in your life, months later, a day, you notice things that you didn't notice before. And I don't think I noticed this rectangular shawl. And actually, I really like it a lot. It is called the, mixed media. Well, if you ever take art lessons, mixed media is when you do artwork with different things. Like maybe you would have acrylic, maybe you would have some thick gooey stuff that dried, textured, and you mix everything together. So this is just called mixed media, and you're using, I'm assuming, different types of yarn, which people can be afraid. Well, can I use this yarn with that yarn? Will they, when I wash it, will they wash up different ways? Will one shrink and one not shrink? So I'm just looking to see if anyone did this. And there's different ways you can search on Ravelry. You can go to the pattern name, make sure you have it set at crochet. And yes, I know I said I wasn't ever going to use Ravelry again, but it's a little hard when you have a shop not to search for things. I don't do project pages. I just need an alternative. So if I put in mixed media, I get a lot of different things, but I don't get this. I can go to designers right beside it, and I can put in Valentina Divine is her name, Valentina Divine, right under designers. There's her name, no pictures or anything, no profile picture. Born in Moscow, Russia. There's a big piece about her. In 1980, she moved to Washington, D.C., and was juried into the Torpedo Art Competition. Here's her patterns. So at the bottom of the patterns, you will find magazines or publications that that person was involved in. And I'm expecting to see this magazine, and I don't. So I don't really know why. And when I look through her patterns, I'm not seeing this pattern at all. So now the other thing that there's 2 pages, my mistake. So when I look through the other 2 pages, I'm not seeing anything called mixed media. So now the other thing I can do is go to patterns, go to advanced pattern search, which is right underneath. You come to this page, and right at the top here, you're going to see sources. So click on sources and then type in the name of your publication. So I'm going to put Vogue. Oh, it's confusing because it's called Vogue Knitting Crochet. So I don't know whether to put in Vogue Knitting or Vogue Knitting Crochet. And I'm just going to put the year in. I could put the month. Okay, and there's our magazine, and there right beside it, it says 29 patterns. So when I click on the 29 patterns, I'm going to get everything in that magazine. So it is a great way to look up magazines. Maybe you don't know if you want to buy the new Vogue magazine that's out or the new Interweave Knits. If you go to patterns, advanced search, and then sources, and then put your magazine, you're going to come up with all the patterns out of that magazine. And so we come down, and is it here? And there it is. And now I see the reason why it didn't come up. It's just called 0 number 8 shawl. So I'm going to click on it, and there's the page where it came from. You can now buy it for $6. The yarns, and there were 6 projects listed. This gal decided to do it in the just about exact colors of that the magazine did. The fringe is looped. This is a pretty shawl, but not very practical. My dog wants to chew the fringe whenever I put it on. And if it is not fastened with a shawl pin, I have to use the hand to hold it. There she shows the different strips that went into making it, and she didn't rate it or say the yarn she used or anything. And 4 of the people didn't post anything. This is the other person. Again, they kind of went along with the same colors, using vintage hand crocheted lace from grandmother's pillowcases. The cloth had disintegrated, so I carefully removed the lace. I have 80 inches of 4 different beautiful laces to incorporate. And boy, she did a lot of photos. Oh, wow. So she took vintage pillowcases from her grandmother. There's a lot of work. And she showed her progress little by little. So just to go over that again, let's just say that the new Interweave Crochet magazine is out. We're going to do pattern, advanced. Then we're going to see projects, designer, sources. We're going to go to sources, and we're going to put in Interweave Crochet 2020. And you know what? I was on this website for years and didn't know of this capability. So this is what it brings up. Winter 2020 and spring 2020, 19 patterns. So this is the latest one. Here are all the patterns. Now, when the magazine is new, you're not going to see that a lot of people made anything. Sometimes, oh, there's a pretty shawl. Sometimes something is just so unique that I am just dying to know if anyone made it. Like in the 2014 special edition, all of those little pieces and flowers. What it says is coral-like crochet, simple double crochet block mesh forms the backdrop of Pat Olsky's high relief tank dress. The front and the back pieces are worked up from the hem with slight A-line. Sculptural narcissus, aster, and camellia flower motifs are worked separately using long yarn ends appliqued to the front. That looks like an amazing amount of work to me. And so here's my magazine. I pull up the patterns and there it is. Now it got 246 likes, but only one hit. So when you see two projects, one is going to be the one. Wow, there is her red dress. It's very hard to see because of the color, but there are the motifs and it looks gorgeous. 2,712 yards, which was 4 skeins. Great pattern. Although I made a gauge swatch that measured perfectly, it measured slightly less than a small when completed, which wouldn't have fit. I created side panels. Look at that. Wow, would that take me a year to make or what? There's the bottom. I have to say, I am like so impressed. The yarn is soft. The dress cost me $15. Many compliments upon wearing. Wow. So I don't think I can top that. I didn't know where this show was going. It just kind of went on its own. Thank you, all of you, for tuning in, and shine baby shine. The podcast went over, but I hope you enjoyed it. See you next time. Bye-bye. Shine baby shine.